All right, it's good to see you guys. It's crazy that we're here at the end of camp. Everyone's excited about school starting and all of it. So excited for the scrimmage tomorrow. You know, this week in particular, the growth of the team has been way cool to see. Pushing through hard things. There's plenty of times that I work my way up to the team meeting in the morning and kind of anticipating, you know, kids being asleep or a dreadfulness or any of that, and it's been nothing but. And it's just been way energetic and way focused and positive, so that part is way cool. And then it gets better when we hit the field, and the effort that's shown on the field and the competitiveness of when we're striving, pushing each other and to be better. And if the tempers do flare, they're extinguished really quick. So way proud of that. We've been able to do hard things and push the team that way without kind of blowing up. And so excited for tomorrow. I think we want to see improvement in the run game on offense and perimeter blocking with our skill people, and then on defense we want to see consistent effort, and we want to see really hard edges in defending the run. Take whatever questions you guys got.
Dave, what are you hoping to see this coming week, and then when do you transition into Albany?
Yeah, so this next week will be, we'll be really transitioning into school mode. I think all of our guys are just probably sick of seeing my face as much as they've seen it, and maybe some of their coaches' faces too. And so I think to get back into school mode and to be a college student again, I think they're excited for that. So we'll be getting back into that mode. But then, along with that would be whittling down the installs, and so really getting into a travel size package for what can make the trip to McLean versus Albany. And then the third piece would be the opponent scout of Albany and working certain facets of that game that need work.
You mentioned the running game. Is Squirrel going to go with the scrimmage tomorrow?
He is not. So he is still, I think he's going to be probably another week out. And so I think the start of next week, we're anticipating to have him.
How frustrating is it for him? He's been dealing with this really his entire career, and you need him more now than you maybe have ever needed him. How frustrating is that?
Yeah, it was, I had a lot of prayers all around for him. I think in talking to him, there's MRI. It took about 24 hours to get the reading of that. It was a very long 24 hours. And so, I think it felt where it was, there was some confidence in that it wasn't a tear or it wasn't anything bad, but then, his history is kind of banging on the door. And, I think it was very difficult for him. I think it was an opportunity for all of us to support and kind of throw ourselves in the space that he was, and I thought we were able to do that. So, it's all turned out good, and we're excited to have him back.
Dave, I've heard coaches say, especially middle fall camp, by the end of fall camp, you're so inward focused on your team that it's difficult to really know who you are until you face another opponent. But what do you feel like you know about this team, and what do you feel like you don't know that you maybe aren't going to know until the season comes around?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that they're a connected team. I know that they believe. I know that they're a hard-working team. I think we were talking. One of the things we showed was there was a game last night, and I think it was Seattle. Who did Seattle play? Chicago. And Seattle was struggling with penalties, and we keep bringing up our game last year versus Texas State, and we had a few others too. And so I think more games early in the year are lost rather than won. And this particular game in Seattle, I think there's 13 penalties. They've got a draft pick on the offensive line that's going to be a great player. And, we talk about being in the pit, when you start off kind of an unconscious incompetence, and then all of a sudden you find out all the stuff that you thought you knew, but you don't know, and now there's a conscious kind of incompetence. You're kind of fighting through it. We got a fair amount of guys in the pit right now. And I think he had 5 penalties or something like that yesterday. And so we showed all of that, because I think what can get lost, and we're doing everything we can to not get into this space, but what can get lost, like say if you have a 4-play rack or a 6-play rack or even a 10-play rack of plays, say there's an explosive, there's a positive, oh, someone jumped off sides, okay, all right, there's a dig for 10 yards, well, that one penalty just kills the drive, kills momentum, especially if you're on the road, right? It's doubled down now with the crowd and the momentum and everything else, and so everything is a thing, and that thing's connected to a bunch of other things, and so I think we have to be way intentional about how we handle all of that, and the youth of this team and all of it. It's a really big question. That is my number one question. Yeah.
Dave, how have you seen the offense kind of bounce back after last Saturday? They were, like you said, they struggled in some areas. How have they bounced back?
Yeah, I think energy was the main struggle there, and it's always been a positive. And I take responsibility for that. I probably didn't talk it up enough, and so we've got our scrimmage set to where it's pretty early, so you gotta have to wake up thinking that you're ready for football, and I probably didn't emphasize that enough, and so I don't think we were ready. We were able to play our way into it. There's a lot of positives there. I thought the run game got better as it went on. I thought Blake was very on point. I thought the receivers gave effort and blocking and tried, but it just wasn't the juice that you normally feel. And I think we've got a youthful offense that thrives off of that. And so I anticipate tomorrow will be much better. And the practices have been great. We had 2 full pad practices back to back, and those might have been the best practices that we've had. The hardest ones were.
Have you seen some of the receivers emerge? That's a group that's pretty young,
Yeah.
kind of unproven.
Yeah. I think, Hal Presley's a guy that comes to mind. Monterey's continued to be more consistent. Javon Gibson is making a lot of plays. You look at Gip, like his spring semester was a record GPA for him. Just everything kind of turned on that way. And it's funny when things kind of turn on in that phase of it, how it doesn't take long to work its way to the field, and it's turning on for him now. So he's really vying for time. Armani's doing great things. So I think in Dallas, I meet with all the guys one-on-one, and all the receivers I meet with just rave on Dallas, and I can see Dallas's impact on them. I mean, they know that they're loved and that people believe in them, and they're playing like that. So it's exciting to see.
Can you tell if the younger players, even though this is your third year, only third year, are your younger players now who you're bringing in better than the ones you had the first year? Can you start to sense that it's getting better?
I don't know if I think I wouldn't use the term better. I would use maybe more understand, maybe more believe. I think a fair amount of people when I first got here, and there's still some now, that like, I don't know what this dude's talking about. What is this dude? Where'd you find this guy? And so I think that was a huge piece of it. And I think now the young guys that we recruit now have come. I think this is a good point, because I think this is always the struggle for coaches, and I just wish that it would all be handled better, because when you recruit the whoever you're bringing in, obviously there's a year relationship and parents, and they get to know you, and so when they come in, they're coming for some of it already, they know, and so it's much smoother. But when you come in and there's already kids there, someone else had that relationship with them, and they're probably, this is like the third guy or the whatever guy and all that other thing, and so there's not wanting to get hurt, not wanting to be abandoned, not all that stuff's real. And so coaches, it's more of an onus right? To have some understanding and have some self-awareness and meet them where they're at, as opposed to, this dude, give me another one. And so I think it's way different approaches. I think it's probably better for the coach to come in with kids that are already there, because it's harder and they've got to, transform to make it work.
Dave, have the veterans been able to show the younger guys the energy level expected, the precision, all that kind of stuff?
They have, yeah. And so they've jumped right into it. So I think, today was a great example. We had helmet practice, and you look at just all of the opportunities where, we just finished. We had 2 full pad days. We had shells yesterday, and the really physical practices and all of it. And so how many times in football do you finish with a thing, right? And you've got another thing that's right ahead. Meanwhile, you're in a thing right now. And so just so many teams. There's just a mountain of teams. And, we were one of them last year, and cost us really when you finish something and there's something ahead and you don't pay attention to what you're in now. And so, today was a training. The training wheels were on for us today, in terms of how we handle that. And that regardless of talent or scheme or any of it, I mean, we can really be good at this area, and there's just so many teams that are just taken down by either what just happened or what's ahead. And so I thought they were able to handle today really good. I think the leadership, the vets, had a big part of that.
Dave, earlier in the summer you mentioned you saw potential in the passing game. Part of why you guys felt so excited about Blake at quarterback. Have you seen the passing game develop the way that you wanted to through fall camp?
Yes. Yeah, I think Blake's been really impressive. I think Kyron Drone's been really impressive. And so, there's a couple throws where you just, the zip that's on the ball, the placement where it's at, the anticipation, the timing. We got a fair amount of guys that after, Ben is one of them, where after a throw will come up to Blake and go, man, that was awesome, or, great throw, stuff like that. So, it's a different dynamic that way. And then I think Blake, with all of it, is continuing to kind of stay attached to kind of the day-to-day process, and is bringing guys along with him in terms of, this is how I study, this is what I do. And I think that's a big stretch for him. He's a very private dude, and I think obviously this role is some of that's going to be expanded, and I think he's doing it in a really good way.
Dave, thinking about the young defensive back group, I think about last year. There were a few games. BYU comes to mind. Big 12 title comes to mind, where y'all were able to stop the run from too high, but then teams would just take shots at the corners. And not a lot of times the plays on the balls weren't there. Are you seeing development in that arena, because there's going to be more 10 personnel, more spread ball this year in the Big 12? Are you confident in that young DB group? I
think that's a good question. I think that's ongoing. I think one of the areas that that we could probably do better at is defensive linemen, pressure, closing in on the ball, or just right now I think Ron's got however many pressures. I'm sure if Eric Mateos was here, he would know exactly how many. And so just with the pressures that come, the idea would be, hey, veer away from the cue, right? And there's all this leadership and all this veteran experience in these O-line and D-lines. You've got the alignment, you got the assignment, you took the right steps. Okay, that's great. None of this kind of working to the cue is going to do any good, right? We want to keep that quarterback healthy, but also we've got just so much inexperience on offense and defense as far as the skill positions, and they need to work. And I think it takes a competitive thing to kind of get all into it and then win a rush and then kind of shut it, close it down quick. And we probably haven't been the best at that. And so I think what that does at the end of the day is kind of muddy the water in terms of how are we holding up, coverage-wise, when the protection is kind of is being thwarted and everything with this pressure or TJ Franklin or Apu or Cole or any of that. And so I think we can be better there. I know for sure we have the talent in the back end to do it. That is something we're still have to answer in terms of how efficient we're going to be.